Twisted terror, terror's cry. Twisted terrors in the body, that funny man of fuse that lie.
You're watching Twisted Terrors. Now your host, Zomboy.
What is going on, horror fanatics? Zomboy here, and you're watching another episode of Twisted Terrors. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie was directed by Wes Craven. It's rated R, comes in at an hour and 31 minutes long. IMDb has this one rated 7.4 out of 10. Letterboxd has it 3.7 out of 5. I'll read the plot. Teenage Nancy Thompson must uncover the dark truth concealed by her parents after she and her friends become targets of a spirit of a serial killer with a bladed glove in their dreams, in which if they die, it kills them in real life. The tagline for this one is, if Nancy doesn't wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all. So let's talk about it. So this movie follows a group of friends. You have Nancy, Glenn, Tina, and Rod, and they quickly realize that their dreams are being overran by this man who has knives for fingers, and it doesn't take long for this movie to get going, and they realize they're all dreaming about the same person. Tina is so scared that she asks her friends to spend the night, and they do. Rod shows up, it's Tina's boyfriend, and she ends up getting killed. And this movie follows the kids. They're trying to figure out who this person is in their dreams, how they're getting killed in their dreams, manifesting into real life. And one by one, they're getting picked off, all while they're trying to understand how this all came to be. That this extremely burned man in a fedora with a glove brandished with 4 blades on each finger as they're trying to survive. So let's just hop right into the spoilers. This movie starts off, like I said, with Tina. She's running away from a guy with knives on his fingers, and she's so scared she asks her friends to spend the night. And when they do spend the night, Tina ends up confronting this man in her dreams, and of course it manifests in real life. And as Freddy Krueger, the man in her dreams, is slicing her to bits and pieces with his blades, you get this crazy scene while her body flies up the walls onto the ceiling, all while cuts are just happening on her body. Rod is in the room with her. He's screaming, watching as she's being cut to bits and can't do anything about it. And of course, the police instantly think Rod did it. He ran out the window. Why wouldn't he? But he quickly gets caught by the police with a switchblade. Nancy believes Rod that he didn't do it. Nancy ends up going to school. She falls asleep in class because she's exhausted, and she wakes to Tina in a body bag being dragged down the hallways covered in blood. And of course, she doesn't think that's weird and follows down into the boilers, where she herself is slowly hunted by Freddy Krueger as he's dragging his knives across metal pipes, making this nasty scraping noise, and sparks are flying. And she's so freaked out, she finally hits her arm on a hot pipe, causing her to wake up screaming in class, and everyone's looking at her, and she gets sent home and quickly realizes she has a burn on her arm from her dream. She ends up going to the jail. They let her talk to Rod. He explains everything he saw and was explaining how the cuts were just happening and that it looked like 4 cuts happening all at once. And then she realized Rod's been having the same dreams about the knifed killer as well. Nancy ends up going home and taking a bath, and she ends up getting pulled under the water down into a giant tank of water underneath the bathtub. where she almost drowns but gets out. It's a pretty cool scene. She ends up getting out of the bathtub, and in the background, if you look at the TV, she is watching Evil Dead. Great movie. And the ties are funny because in this movie, she's watching Evil Dead, and if you watch Evil Dead 2, down in the basement on the back wall is a Freddy Krueger claw with the blades on it. So it's a cool touch, a little nod to each other in the horror community. Glenn ends up showing up at Nancy's window. She lets him in and says she just wants him to stay awake and watch her, and she's gonna go to sleep, and if anything happens to wake her up. And she ends up going to sleep, and of course starts getting chased by Freddy Krueger, and they're outside, and they end up at the jail. She ends up running back to her house. Freddy Krueger is chasing her, and then her alarm goes off, waking her and Glenn up, and she is very upset at Glenn.
I just asked you to do one thing. Just stay awake and watch me. Just wake me up if it looked like I was having a bad dream.
But then she realizes that Freddy Krueger is going after Rod. So they run to the jail and they won't let him go back there. And finally, her dad comes out, who is the chief police officer, and he allows it. And they go back there and he is hung by the neck by a sheet. And you get a scene, no one else gets to see it, but the sheet wraps around his neck all by itself and pulls him up to the ceiling. So Freddy Krueger got him as well. Nancy's all freaked out, so Nancy's mom end up taking her to a sleep clinic where they hook her up to a bunch of wires and tell her it's okay, you just go to sleep, we're gonna monitor you and see what's going on. And so she ends up going to sleep, and there the doctor is explaining to Nancy's mom that she's sleeping and everything's looking really good, and if she starts having a nightmare, the numbers should jump up between a 5 or a 6. And as she gets into REM sleep and starts dreaming, you can hear Freddy's claws kind of muffled to show that she's having a nightmare. And of course, the numbers start skyrocketing up into the 30s. He can't explain what's happening at all. And when they run in there to wake her up, she has a large laceration on her arm. Part of her hair has turned gray, and she realizes she's holding Freddy Krueger's fedora. And she explains she brought it out of her dream, and Freddy Krueger was attacking her, and when she woke up, she was holding the hat. She brought it out. Nancy's trying to get her mom to tell her who this Fred Krueger is, because the hat's got a name tag inside that says Fred Krueger, and all mom would say is he can't hurt you because Fred Krueger is dead.
Fred Krueger can't come after you, Nancy. He's dead. Believe me, I know. You knew about him all this time?
Nancy comes home and finds out that her mom has installed bars over all the windows, and asks her about it, and she says it's for safety, and finally tells her to come down to the basement. And she goes down to the basement and she starts telling Nancy the story about Fred Krueger, how he was a child killer who killed 20 kids back in the day and got caught. And unfortunately, during the whole time he was going through court, they found out that they signed paperwork wrong and they had to release him. So the parents of the neighborhood got together and tracked him down to where he used to take his kids. They ended up trapping him inside and setting the place on fire, killing Freddy Krueger. And that he can't hurt anyone because he's dead. And that mommy has his knives, and she pulls a bag out of their boiler, opens it up, and it is Freddy Krueger's glove with the blades on it.
So it's okay now.
Nancy makes a plan with Glenn to meet her on her porch at midnight because she is gonna get the killer and bring him out, and she wants Glenn there with a baseball bat to beat him. Glenn ends up falling asleep, and of course Freddy ends up dispatching Glenn by pulling him into his bed and blood going flying everywhere. So that is the end of Glenn. So Nancy tells her dad that she's gonna go get Fred Krueger and he needs to come get him when he comes out. So Nancy ends up booby trapping her house and goes to sleep, finds Fred Krueger, grabs a hold of him just enough time her alarm goes off, waking her up, and she realizes Fred Krueger is now in real life. and he's chasing her around the house. She ends up lighting him on fire. Finally, her dad and the police come over, and they're looking inside the house, and she's telling him that he's on fire. They can't find him, and then she sees the fiery footprints going upstairs. When she goes up there, Fred Krueger is on top of her mom in bed, strangling her, and they sink slowly into the bed as Nancy's dad walks in, witnessing that, and she says that she's okay and to go downstairs. She'll be down in a second, and the door slams shut, and Freddy Krueger appears, and she turns her back on Freddy Krueger and says, "I'm not afraid of you anymore, and I'm taking the power away." And that causes Freddy Krueger to disappear because he feeds off your fear. And then the last scene is she wakes up and her mom is alive and Glenn is alive and Tina's there. And they go outside into Glenn's car. They're on their way to school. And as they're driving away, as what looks like the car auto-driving, by the way, the mom gets pulled through the window by Freddy Krueger, and that is the end of the movie. I forgot how much I love this movie. I have seen this movie many times, but I haven't seen it in a while. And so I rewatched it for this, and I forgot how fast this movie gets going. It really spares no time at all to just jump right in, and I appreciate that. Freddy Krueger is frightening. Now, he's only in this movie like 7 or 8 minutes altogether, but that's okay. And his look is amazing in this one. They definitely use the darkness to their advantage in this. His face is always really shrouded in darkness. You can really tell it's all burnt up, but his acting in this one is great. And I think I like this one the most just because this is Freddy Krueger at his scariest before he starts getting too funny in some of the movies down the road. This movie has a lot going for it that I like. There's a scene where Glenn's calling his mom to tell her that he's spending the night at a cousin's house because he's going to spend the night at Tina's with Nancy. His cousin lives near an airport, so he's playing a boombox in the background with tapes of airport noises as it switches over to a car crash, and he's trying to explain to his mom that there was a wreck out front, and it's just a very fun scene.
Right, I'll call you in the morning. Yeah, sure. Just some kids drag racing outside, I think, Mom. Listen, Mom, I gotta go. I think there's been an accident out front. Right. I'll call the police. Right, I'll call the police. No, just some neighbors having a fight, I guess. I'm fine. I'll call you in the morning.
Tina's death is brutal. Now, they built an entire room that spun on an axis, so as she's flying up the walls and blood spraying everywhere, they built this room that spun around and the camera stayed stationary to give it this effect of her going up the walls and out of the ceiling, and it made for a great scene. Nancy's teacher is Lin Shaye, and I forgot about that altogether. I was watching it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Lin Shaye. And she's very young, but you know, it's a short time, but Lin Shaye is forever immortalized in horror movies, and this is one of the first ones I remember seeing her in, so I think that's pretty cool. You know, the bathtub scene's pretty cool. Her being pulled underwater by Freddy Krueger, it's a wicked scene. Freddy Krueger is absolutely iconic. He is so iconic in the horror scene. Even if you've seen A Nightmare on Elm Street or not, if you show a person a picture of him, most people know who he is because he is one of the top horror movie characters of all time. I love the nod to Evil Dead back and forth in this one. There's not a lot I don't like in this. Pacing is really well. There's not a ton of dialogue that just gets you boring. It moves from one thing to another. The visuals in this movie are great, and I applaud that. It's very gory. I like that as well. It's a cool fact when Glenn's laying in bed watching TV, just like in Poltergeist at midnight, TV ends back at this time, and I remember that. It says, "This is station KRGR, leaving the air," which spells out Krueger if you take the vowels out, so a cool little nod to Freddy Krueger there.
Now 12 midnight, and this is station KRGR leaving the air.
I highly recommend this movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's one of the top horror movies I think of all time. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 just because I love it so much. It's got a lot of nostalgia going for it as well. But I will say that Nightmare on Elm Streets are some of my favorite horror series. I will say a couple of them are a little terrible, and he does get a little goofy down the road. But this is Zomboy saying thanks for watching. Keep it scary, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.